With that in mind, it is 7:02. My name is Bob Tebow. I'm the Superintendent of Windham Central Supervisory Unit. I'm calling this meeting of the WCSU full board to order. It is May 28th, 2025, and we are going to reorganize as our first item on the agenda. And so I would like to take nominations for the chair.
I'll nominate Rich Werner.
All right, Dan MacArthur has nominated Rich Werner. And we do not need seconds, is that accurate? Do not need seconds for those. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, not hearing or seeing any other nominations. All those in favor of Rich as the chair signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any of those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it, and the ayes do have it unanimously. Mr. Werner, welcome back, chairmanship. I will turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, everybody, I appreciate it. The next one is vice chair, which is currently Emily, or was Emily until we reorganized. So I would accept nominations for a vice chair, please.
I'll nominate Emily.
Okay, do we have any other nominations anywhere?
I suppose I should say Emily Long. Not that there are
Do we
a lot
have
of
two
Emilys, but let's make it clear.
Just the one.
Yeah, just the one.
Yeah.
The one and only, yeah, there you go.
Okay, if there's no other nominations, I would then ask for everybody in favor. Emily, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
It appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, I don't think it's my computer. You sound kind of like you're staticky or like there's not.
I'm right next to
we're
the
not-
mic, so, and it lights up green when I talk.
It likes it better when you look at
Okay, I'm sorry.
She's saying don't talk, just look at it.
Okay, I'm looking at it.
it.
So
What is he thinking?
so we have a nomination for Emily as vice chair, and we, I believe everybody was in favor. Are there any opposed? It is a unanimous decision in the affirmative. Congratulations, Emily. And then our next position is the clerk, and Al Claussen has served as our clerk for the last several years, so I would look for a nomination for our clerk.
Nominate Al Claussen.
Okay, so Joe nominates Al as our clerk. Are there any other nominations? You want to be clerk, Drew? Oh. You're giving me the evil eye, that's for sure. Anybody, any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Al as the clerk, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Is there any opposed? I think everybody said aye. Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. Congratulations, Al. Thank you.
Rich.
Our WCSU Policy Committee, so we asked that each board have one representative to the policy committee.
And many of them have done that at their organizational meetings. So
Okay,
if you're gonna ask me who they are, you could, or you could ask the board members, because they're here and I don't remember.
do you know who yours is?
Oh, I know that we have one. Rachel will know, because I think it's Rachel, but I think Rachel says it's not her, so.
I can't remember. I think maybe it is me.
I think maybe it is you.
Does somebody have their hand up?
But it's in the minutes somewhere. We'll find that out.
Does somebody have their hand up, Bob?
Crystal,
Crystal, go ahead.
So for the West River Board, it's myself, Lindsay, and Peter.
on the West River.
That's the West
Oh.
River Policy Committee.
Okay,
Peter, I think, was the,
so,
I think it was Peter.
okay, so thank you, Chris. There's a policy committee usually for each board, and then there's also one usually assigned to the SU board. So it sounds like you were able to not get stuck with that one, so,
But we do think it was Peter. I think Drew's right.
It was Peter.
Yeah.
okay. And then in ours, I believe it was Kate, right, Kate?
That's correct.
And you said you've got yours, so Allison, you were doing it for Stratton, are you still?
Yeah,
Well-
I'm still on it. I just
Okay.
didn't want to chair it again this year.
Okay, well, when you guys reorganize, when you have your first policy to get together, you guys can choose whoever's gonna chair it.
And there was a Windham,
I think it's Kate.
it might be the new member, Kate.
That's what I
Okay,
think.
but nobody from Wyndham's on this call, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
They did elect Abby to be the rep to the SU board and named both Dan and Kate as backups if she was unavailable, but
Okay,
so they were authorized duly in a meeting.
okay. I'm gonna move on to other suggested committees. Does anybody have another suggested committee that, we did have a transportation group for a little bit with Greg, and I think that was to talk about purchases of buses and if we could do something, but West River wasn't able to take on the other transportation needs, so I think that kind of splintered. And that was the only other committee I'm aware of, and has any board talked about an SU committee they'd like to see? So you guys all good in here? Anybody on TV, is there any other committees you can think of that you'd like to see? Take silence as being no, so.
I think Emily likes to, she's been very involved in committee work this spring, I think she'd love it. Sorry, Emily, couldn't help myself.
We could do a committee to
That was
rate
not
the
the finger I was
legislature.
Where she was,
Oh, gosh, we can't do that.
Okay.
Very bad.
Wouldn't take long.
conference in that committee.
Regular board meeting schedule, it should be in your packet, it's like the third page in. So this was the suggested, board meetings. We are gonna try to continue with the executive committee once a month, and if Bob has nothing that he wants to talk to us about, he'll just cancel it. And then we do have a retreat scheduled in October, as we usually do. We do wanna talk about budgets and how we're gonna budget in the future. So this is tentative, but we can always add and subtract meetings. I believe we have, new business, future SU budgeting, a timeline and a process for discussion. But again, it's kind of early to start planning a lot of meetings, 7 or 8 months down the road. So, but if everybody's good, I'd like to at least adopt the proposed schedule we have as a framework. Does anybody have a problem with that? And if not, would somebody mind making a motion?
We probably just want to change December 3rd, 2024 to 2025.
Well, that's because if needed, we're gonna go back.
It definitely was.
Good catch, Al, thank you. Anybody else, any comments, or would somebody like to make a motion?
Can I just ask where those documents are online? For some reason with these meetings, I don't get the board docs.
If you go to the agenda, Allison,
Yeah.
is emailed out, it's got hyperlinks in that agenda. So you can then click on
it. Oh, no, I feel like
just
it
in the
doesn't.
meeting invite, and then also Sue emailed it to us as well.
Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you, Kate.
Cool.
Hey, the old guys over here just want you to know they're blue, that's what the hyperlinks are.
Or they look blue to our eyes.
Oh, maybe they're really not
I
blue.
think they are blue.
Thanks, Rich. That was super helpful.
I don't know.
Well, we always, when it comes to technology, you should always check with me first.
Rich, I just wanted to make one comment about that is, I know that there was some talk about the districts in the SU maybe changing their annual meeting to be later so that we could have budgets in place, et cetera. So Bob, if you'll help me remember, I will bring that up in the fall sometime. We'll probably have to have a special meeting to do it, but let's keep investigating that. And is Marlboro the only one who's?
No, Stratton and Windham also do theirs on town meeting day,
Yeah,
so.
so if we could, let's continue that conversation.
So let's talk about that, because I had a couple thoughts about that when we do the budgeting timelines. So if you guys can hold on to that.
Yeah.
So for right now, could I get a motion from somebody to approve the calendar as presented?
I would like,
Oh,
yep,
go for it, Kate.
okay.
I would like to move it as presented and adjusted that in the meeting.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to Allison because she hasn't gotten to make one yet. Is there any discussion? Everybody good? All good? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Cool. Designate locations for posting agendas. Bob, I believe
So
every
we,
school posts them.
yeah, we send them out to all the schools and on our, in front of our building physically and on the SU website. I
So-
don't know if we do the town halls as well for the SU. I'd have to double check with Sue
But
on
you
that,
do
but
put them
we
in the paper, don't you?
definitely do it to the schools, like the newspaper.
Yeah. Or is it just our
I don't think so.
annual meeting?
I think that's just the annual one, yeah.
Or, because maybe it would be good for the budget ones too, to get them spread out a
Yeah,
little
we can
more.
tackle that when we start getting into the budget stuff, but yeah, I think, I don't think we'd send it to the paper, the regular ones.
Okay, because I guess it really probably wouldn't hurt. And again, you've got multiple papers and I don't know if newspapers are as big a, I mean, you get the
Haven't opened
newspaper
one in a
now, and it's
while.
really thin.
I think Front Porch Forum would be more effective on doing something like that. And it's not Facebook, you know, it's a.
Rick.
Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is our official posting. It doesn't mean we can't add to it. I just want to make sure that we're not adding extra burdens onto our staff about posting. I think Front Porch Forum, newspaper, all those are fine, but the newspaper one is pretty expensive normally, and I just want to be very mindful about what our official posting is so that members of the public are aware and know where to look for ours.
Okay, so then if I get this right, we're gonna say it's gonna be at each school.
We must do the town halls too, I'm guessing, because Stratton and Windham
Don't have
don't have a
schools.
school, so I'm guessing we must also do the town clerks.
Each school, town clerks, WCSU office, and they're online,
And on
right?
the website, yeah.
On the WCSU website. So we have those four. Let's do those as our official ones, if somebody would like to make that motion. And then let's just kind of remember to, when we have some more important meetings or more important agendas coming up, we'll try to get them out to some other places as well. Don't all motion at once.
Oh, so moved.
Thank you, Joe. Is there a second to Joe's movement?
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Appears to be unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is agree on use of Robert's Rules of Order. I believe we're required to do that anyway, so I don't
And all
know.
the individual boards already have done that there.
Yeah.
But I know that for ours, we use the small meetings version thereof. I don't know if that has to be included in the motion or
Well, we're larger boards, so I think,
to use the big one.
yeah, we've always used the regular Robert's
Actually, I
Rules.
think it's 25 and less can use small, unless that's changed recently, but I believe we can all use small.
Yeah, but I thought
It doesn't, I don't think it matters on this motion, frankly. Okay, we're operating under Robert's rules, which the 25 member is a part of, or the small boards is a part of Robert's rules. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to use Robert's rules.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's give it to Dan, because he hasn't seconded one in a while. So we have a motion and a second to use Robert's rules. Is there any discussion? Bob, you gotta just tell me, because I'm not seeing that very well, if somebody raises.
No
their hand.
hands, nothing.
Okay, all those in favor of using Robert's rules, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. Oh, Drew, you'd have to put it right next to me. Thank you. There's a lot of glare.
Yeah, it's clear.
I can fix the glare.
Okay, so
Coming on my head, maybe? I'm not sure.
I don't remember it. Did we do this in the past, Bob, for adopting and signing the VSBA Code of Ethics?
Individual boards have done that at different levels of commitment, and so I just put on there because this is sort of like the template of organizational meetings. But I think if you've already done it as an individual board member, I probably need to do it again as an SU board member.
And I will say, it seems a little bit, we're not here as school board members, we're members of an SU board, so I just don't think it's appropriate.
Okay. Emily, do you remember ever doing this before at the SU level?
I actually don't remember us doing it. That doesn't mean that my memory isn't failing me, but I don't actually remember us doing it at the SU level. I do always remember it at a local board member, as a local board.
Okay. Well, I know we did it for River Valley. Drew, did you do it for your?
We did.
And you did it for Marlboro, man?
I can't remember.
You definitely talked about it.
Yeah,
I think you did.
yeah.
Allison, did you guys do it up in Stratton?
Yeah, it's due September 1st, right? So some of us are still getting it in there.
Okay. So I guess then if everybody's okay, since all the boards have pretty much done it, can we just check with, can we make a request to Windham that they would do that?
I actually think they did it there.
Okay, if they haven't, or you can find out for us. So I guess we can skip over that. Designate a newspaper. I believe we've used the Brattleboro Reformer. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to use the Brattleboro Reformer as the paper of record.
Is there a second to that? Sure. Thank you, Joe. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is. Changes to the agenda. Anybody in TV land have any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
Anybody in here? Anybody alive? I've got one. We just have some contracts to sign, so I'll add that just before district updates, if everybody's okay with that. Okay. Members of the public, do we have any public?
A couple.
Who are
Public,
they?
maybe not public, staff, I think.
Okay, so members of the staff. Looks like
It's just Rory.
Rory, do you have anything for staff?
I do not.
Okay, well, thank you for attending. Greg, is Greg here for anything specific, or?
Greg just loves board meetings, I think. So.
There's help for that, Greg. If you want, I can get you a support group.
I missed you, Rich.
Thank you.
I was missing you, and so I thought I would tune in. So.
Okay, is your newspaper buddy here?
No.
That's a good question. I don't see him.
Okay.
You want me to check in? I might have his number.
Okay. I made a comment in our last board meeting. The newspaper put us, I forget what the number was, but they quadrupled or tenfold our budget that was approved at the annual district meeting. So I thanked him at the last meeting for increasing our budget so much. And then we were talking about the electric school bus because the thing died, it got delivered. We hadn't even really accepted it yet and it died. Don't all look shocked. It was the hills that killed it. But there was a comment about that. I said to Chris Mays, well, if you have any questions, give Greg a call. And he did. Reach right out to Greg. So. We have in our packets the minutes of the March 26, 2025 meeting was our last meeting. Is there anybody like to make a motion to approve those?
I will make a motion to approve them as presented.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Al. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? You're gonna abstain, thank you. So we have one abstention. We're supposed to do a roll call vote. Is there anybody who didn't vote in the affirmative or abstained? Okay, we're just gonna note that everybody was in approval except for Drew, who abstained. Thank you. Old business, staffing updates. So, as you all remember at some of our last meetings, Bob had a study done by a group to look at our organization at Windham Central, and there were some recommended changes, and Bob started advertising for some positions. He filled a couple, and then a couple other ones didn't get filled. So Bob, why don't you tell us about our staffing?
Yeah, so first off, this has been in my cabinet report for a few months now, but with the reorganization, one of the positions that was eliminated was the equity coordinator, because those duties have been rolled into the director of SEL, Equity and Wellness. And so Lindsay, who had been our equity coordinator for the last 2 years, knew that her job was running out. She did not express interest in applying for it, so she was looking for other employment. So she ended up getting a job at the AOE, and so gave her notice and did not finish the year. So that's just one thing to be aware of. Just a side note to that, though, the equity committee that meets every other month or so, which is made up of admin, I think there's a board member from West River on it, and staff and students, still had a meeting, their last meeting of the year, which was completely coordinated, run by students. So a couple of legal and grade students took the lead, and I'm gonna actually shout out to one of them, Dakota Wood, who did a fantastic job actually facilitating the meeting for 2 hours, which I was a part of, and it was just a really cool student leadership moment. And so I shared that out with the whole SU staff because I was pretty impressed. So the work continued even though Lindsay had left, but I want you guys to know, and obviously some financial savings from her departing early. In the meantime, we have filled the director of SEL position with David Cohn, who's coming to us from the Springfield School District. We have filled the curriculum director position vacated by Jen, who went to the executive director of teaching and learning position. Renee Marluzzi is the new curriculum director, who was the curriculum coordinator. And then after things started to kind of settle there, as you guys know, Stephanie, who's on the call tonight to talk about the collaborative, she also took a position out of state, and we're still kind of angry at her for that. Now, we're happy for her to have the opportunity to do something different for herself and her family, but we've been looking for that replacement as well. We've had some interviews last week, we have another one tomorrow. So I hope to have a name and a contract for you on that the next week or two. Obviously, this full board doesn't meet for a while, so maybe authorize the chair when you do these other contracts to also sign that one. But we're hoping to have that filled in the next week or two. In the meantime, we also have a new HR director, and just a little shout out to Al and Tammy, who were just minding their own business one night at the 99 trivia night, and we're sitting next to a couple who were new to the area, and the woman was talking about how she does HR, but she's fully remote and wanted to really engage more with the community, and she was sitting in her house doing HR work from for a company in Boston or something. And so Tammy was like, "We have an opening for an HR director." And so I got her resume emailed to me that day. I was supposed to join them at the 99 for a trivia night when I was in Massachusetts at a daughter's AAU practice. Anyway, it all panned out really nicely, and this person has started with us a couple weeks ago. And so far, by all accounts, she's fantastic, and we're just pretty excited. So that has been on transition. And Michelle Brad, who's been the HR coordinator for
7 years.
7 years. Is departing at the end of
She's
June.
been there for 7 years.
Yeah, a couple different roles.
Yes.
Couple different roles. So she's departing along with Stephanie at the end of June. So we have those departures, but we have filled those with the exception of Stephanie. So that's the staffing update in general from the SU office as a result of the reorg. I will say that I've been sharing this with boards as we go, that there are vacancies almost in every building, I think, still for next year. I know Marlboro is still looking for a phys ed teacher, which is a new resignation. West River has several here in this building, and a long-term sub in another one. Dover, I think, is filling they're still looking for a librarian in Dover and Wardsboro. And so, yeah, we're all still kind of shuffling to try to find some vacant positions. The applicant pool is low. One of the things the new HR coordinator was hired based on was her interest in recruitment and retention, which is something new for us. And so I think we're gonna really unleash her to do more of that as she gets more familiar with the communities. So that's my staffing update, but it's tough right now. And but we're thrilled to have the team that we're assembling at the SU and feel pretty good about that.
Any questions on staffing?
Minus being angry at Stephanie, so I'll say that one more time.
Well, maybe to follow up on that, I would like to just officially, if this board would, thank Stephanie for your time at the SU.
Over 20 years in the SU, beginning in Marlboro, actually.
In Marlboro, absolutely, yes.
And then at Leland and Gray, special ed, and then into the director for the last 8
Don't look at me, look at her.
8 or 9. 8 or 9. 8 as the special ed director. And I will tell you this, as I've been doing interviews with people, this is the hardest job in any school system. Because you're constantly fighting against lack of resources. You're constantly fighting against, not fighting against, but you're constantly running in conflict with teams that want things. They want to support kids, they want to support families. Families are maybe upset about certain things, and to be able to walk that tightrope to keep things, fiscally solvent while still serving the needs of all the kids who are our most high needs kids. It's really an impossible job, and keep us out of compliance jail, which she's done a great job with. And in the meantime, she also helped get this collaborative going. We'll hear more about. It's been very involved in that. So yeah, I want to echo that, Dan. Over 20 years of service to the SU, and we're like I said, I haven't moved off of anger yet. Well, we'll go to sadness soon, but we're very appreciative of the time she's given us.
I can say Emily and I were on the hiring committee when we hired her for the position, and it was interesting because I think, Emily, we did 3 interviews.
I think so, yeah.
And it was pretty much a no-brainer. I like interviews like that because when you have 3 really good people, it's hard to choose, but she really stood head and shoulders above. So I would give you a round of applause, but I can't use my right hand, so.
Yeah, I got the scoop on that. I'm sorry you had to have surgery.
Thank you, Thank you.
Thank you,
really
guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Anything else from in here on staffing? Any questions, comments? You guys all good? In TV land, anybody have anything? So I have one real quick thing, Bob, and we've talked about this a little bit, and it's gonna kind of fit into budgeting too. We do move staff around a lot, like we said, she's had 20 years, but not in different positions. And I don't, for the individual schools, it's okay because that's their business. But can we start doing not an organizational chart, but a chart of who fills what positions? And I think it would be really good because we do tend to, when we first started combining the schools, we really beefed up the business office because they needed a lot of help. They had to get a lot of stuff into PowerSchool and get a lot of the programs up. And so we had extra people in the business office, but then as the schools got running, we moved some of those people left, some went half time to this. And we found during budgeting that it was a little confusing. So I was really hoping that we could kind of get like just a chart with, here's
So
here
you're
are
talking
all
just
the
the central
SU
office people,
just central office.
not central office employees like special educators, just people who are
No,
housed.
no, I think everybody, everybody that the SU pays for, because I think it would really help when we budget, and we were asked for that, and it was kind of hard to pull together. So I think if we could maybe and I know it's gonna change during the year too, but or whatever next meeting we have, if we could have okay, here at the SU, under the superintendent's budget, we have the superintendent.
So you want a funding source attached to that as well.
Right, because and I just think it's gonna help people when we do budgeting, so that we're not trying to jam this all in at the last minute.
Yeah.
And
Do you want
again,
names or just positions or both?
well, I don't know, what do you all think? You guys, names or just the position? I think names help, because I think it puts a name, then you associate a name, and we can see when a person moves. Because when we just talk in positions, then it's hard when they move, because again, we think that, they're now doing this job, are they a new employee? But not really, because they were an employee, but we didn't need them full-time in HR anymore, so they went half-time here. You know,
So names, assignment, funding source
yep,
of everyone paid out of the SU budget.
correct.
Now, I'm gonna somewhat.
So-
Well, hang on, folks.
I somewhat
Hang on one
disagree.
sec.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that's not an order yet. It's a discussion point.
Sure.
So now we can have discussion. You can go, and then Emily, and then whoever else.
I'm just gonna disagree with putting the names in there. I don't know that it really helps anything. And I think in some ways, just having the position, where the money comes from, and how much it costs might even be clearer, honestly. Then you don't get interpersonalities sort of mixed up with it.
Okay,
That's my
that's good. Emily, was that?
Yeah,
So I'm going to go a little more broadly, and then I'm going to agree with Dan. I actually think it is an organizational chart. And I think that being able to, first of all, I want to be very mindful of the use of time of our staff to put this together. So a deadline on this is not something I'm looking for when they're ready. And the reason I'm saying this is because I asked the Agency of Education for an organizational chart, which is something that I had expected and didn't get. And it took a really long time for them to pull it together. And they did put names, and I didn't feel the names were helpful at all. I felt the title of the position was really important to me. And in fact, because I'm kind of a budget hawk at times, the salaries of the positions were very important to me. Those two things were critical. And the vacancies are also very important. So the positions and an organizational chart, which can be updated, quarterly or biannually, or I mean, whatever we all agree on. I'm not too concerned. I think it's important for us to have this information before we go into budget, but I'm trying to balance it with not, creating a problem for staff, because I know this can take some time. I was surprised at how much work it seemed to be at the AOE. And I think it's really helpful for us to have the chart as a sort of a tree, sort of organizational tree to some extent. I leave it up to the staff to figure out how much. I'm not sure how important it is to have every single employee on there as they turn over regularly. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, not disagreeing with it, but I think the key positions are critically important, and we can build on that for what we need. So I'm just trying to balance the really thoughtful and transparent request with the impact on the staff to pull it all together, just because I see this as helpful, but can take some time.
And again, that's why I want to have a discussion, because I wasn't sure. I know, like in Dover before we were River Valleys, we would list everybody out and what they did, and but again, we were, maybe 25 people. And I know central office, since they took over the special ed, had more, but again, sometimes it gets confusing. So that's why I thought if we started talking about it now, we could maybe have something that will help us better budget. And I don't disagree, but are you all set?
I just want to say one more thing. The staffing level changes a huge amount at the building level, which is often employed at the SU level when it comes to SPED. So that's the part I'm trying to balance. We have 5 positions at, West River or whatever. That's fine with me, but I want to make sure that we're not, it changes so often that I'm trying not to be too challenging with our request.
Okay. You all set, Emily?
yes, I am, thank you
Okay, go ahead.
for indulging me.
I think the names are actually really important, because not only do we have movement within the SU, we have movement in and out of the district. So I don't necessarily know which employees are being paid for out of the West River budget and which ones are being paid for out of, because they move back and forth from time to time, where we have staff. So you see the same person that was on your payroll, but unless we have names attached, we didn't realize that they got moved to somebody else's payroll. So I think having the names is important. It also helps with, public transparency, so that people know who's getting paid for out of what.
Bob, did you have your hand up?
I didn't, I just want to make sure that all things have been discussed so far. The assignment,
Well, yeah, we
funding
haven't
source.
made a decision.
No, I'm just trying to make sure I haven't missed
Okay.
anything. Funding source, the vacancies, salaries, locations, names. Those are all things that have been discussed.
Okay.
And just so people would know, the number we're talking about is over 90
Yeah.
with everybody, because special ed is, you're talking about
Yeah.
paras, you're talking, I mean, there's a lot of people, so.
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, so great, 90, that's kind of what I was wondering about, how big is that number? So as a visual tool or aid, an org chart, you know, if you have 90, that's just
It's not gonna fit on a single thing.
I was gonna say, we're gonna have multiple pages.
Especially if you have salaries and locations.
And that was why I thought of a list would maybe better, and like, here's a list, and, you know, here's central office, here's people that work here, here's people that work in, for the SU, but they work in West River, and then they work in River Valleys, and then they work in, and again, I don't have a good vision of it, but I wanted to bring it up now,
Yeah.
so we can maybe give you some parameters.
Well, and since the spring and the conversation around the budget, I think we have, because you've got one from Sue, a more updated org
Yeah, we've
chart
been working on one.
of just the office staff, right? And then special ed teachers, AST teachers, paras are not on that. It lists like those, who they report to in a sense, but like where they're under. But so we have a 1-page graphic representation, and then maybe a second page that's a spreadsheet with the rest of the data on it. It's kind of maybe what it would look like. Because you're right, I don't think you could do the tree with 90 something people. I think that would be chaos. Yeah.
lose the visual appeal for sure.
Right.
Anything else, Al? You all set?
No, I think that, I mean, if you wanted to keep it as a chart and still have it look like that as an org chart, you could say, we have 5 paras or, you know, whatever. You could, instead of listing all the names, just say the number of, for that particular position. Just to, I mean, yes, and you could still
And then
blow
you can
it
still
out.
do the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So again, to me, it's not a perfect, I don't have a perfect vision. I don't know if any of us do, or even, you know, what's doable. I just figured if we at least got something started, if you have the framework, then in the future, it's easier. And again, it's something that maybe we just update twice a year, or, you know, you could keep it updated, but we could use it at budgeting time, so. In TV land, does anybody have any other comments?
Emily's hand's back up, I think.
Emily. Yep.
Oh, good. Well, Emily, let's see. Is there anybody else who hasn't spoken yet? You have
Aren't the employees already, the public employees, aren't they already on the website? Someone wanted to find out who they were, would they be on the site, or are they already available?
The people in the office down the street are,
Yeah.
as far as like, and I think we even have pictures and all that on there, just, it doesn't have it in like an organizational chart structure, it's just the names and pictures. But definitely not like the special educators and the AST and the paras would maybe be on the school sites where they're housed, but they're not on the SU site.
The other question is, so as far as salaries are concerned, that seemed like that was kind of added during the conversation, but is there aren't, that would be the only way we would have access to actual people's salaries, because aren't they all kind of lumped in budget line items? So now we're asking for something a little more specific than what's in the budget. Okay. That's all.
You all set?
Yep.
And if there's nobody else, I'm gonna go around. Oh, Kate, go ahead, and then we'll get to you, Emily, right after Kate.
So if we posted this, like, because it would get posted with our minutes, I'm assuming at the very least, if we posted a chart with everybody's salary, wouldn't that, like, put us at a disadvantage for hiring with other, like, SUs? Wouldn't that put some pretty sensitive information out there that other supervisory unions could then see and know what we were paying our team?
But it is a public record, so anybody can walk in the SU's office and say, I'd like to see all your contracts. And, you know, there's an old saying, those that eat from the public trough, everybody in the public knows what you're eating. There's some towns that actually post everybody's salary and how much they made for the year in their town reports. So it's not unheard of, but again, it's a lot different than private industry where, you know, I worked for a private person that had a rule, if you talked about your salary with somebody else, it was a fireable offense. So I that's a good thought, but again, you know, it's something that comes up at budget time quite frequently. So it you know, I don't know. Again, it's not a well thought out It was just meant for a conversation starter.
No worries, just making sure we consider all the elements.
Yeah. Okay, Emily, why don't you go, and then we'll, if there's anybody else that'd like to comment.
Yeah, I did. I think Dan's hand was up, but I'll just quick. Oh, maybe not.
Just quickly, I hear and agree with pretty much everything I've been hearing, and especially about the sensitivity about all this. But Rich is absolutely right. This is, public information. This is not something that I would ever request to be posted on our website or anything like that, but it is something that we do discuss, in fact, in our minutes at regular points in our annual process that we go through. I'm going to suggest that we ask for it to be done. However, I don't care how long it takes to do it, but I think we should try this out and just try to have an org chart for the SU itself office, the top level, and look at that as a starting point. Rich, I think it was very thoughtful of you to say, do this as a starting point. I think just the folks that are at the top levels of our administration and staff at the central office, and then just go from there and see, how helpful that's been for us and move forward. I'm still going to say, I totally understand Drew's comments, and I especially think it's important to make sure that we're aware of the staff movement from location to location within our SU, and when we lose out of our SU to another, because that's really important information. Some SUs or SDs are doing a really good job retaining staff and others are not. It'd be nice to know if we're like that. But I don't, I think that's something that can be filled in as we're discussing the positions over time. So I'm just, I found the names were not important at all when I asked for the org chart at the AOE, but the positions were very important and the vacancies were very important. So I'm just speaking from that experience.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, just a couple quick comments. Again, kind of where I was hoping we could wind up with this is the executive committee could work on something with the superintendent at some of our meetings. And, if the Heidi could join too. And I think maybe you're right, Emily, maybe we start with something small just to see how it looks, and then maybe bring it to the executive committee, see what the executive committee thinks, and then we can expand on that. And I think that, and maybe Joe or Dan, doesn't VSBA have don't they have a chart or something of like what the superintendents make throughout? I know Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns does for police officers and firemen and public works and town managers. Because you know what, Emily, it may also be a really good tool for us in the recruitment when, Bob's asking for, for new positions or positions too. So again, I don't think we can make a decision tonight. I thought maybe if everybody was good with it, we let Bob and his staff kind of, start a draft for us, and we can, at the next executive committee meeting, we could be a topic of discussion. Hopefully all there'll be representatives from every school. And then if we get something that we kind of like and we can agree to as an executive group, then we can present it to the boards or to the full board, this board. So would everybody be okay with that for a start? And again, it's Rome wasn't built in a day. I think it took 2, maybe 3. Is everybody okay with that? Does that work for you, Drew?
Yep.
It works for you guys? TV land, is that okay? We go that route? I think I get a thumbs up.
Lots of thumbs.
Okay, so let's move along. Bob, do you have enough to start with?
Yep.
Okay. Policy committee, upcoming meetings. Do you have a meeting, Bob? Do you have policies?
We have some that are coming up to be warned or to be adopted today, but I would like to put the group together, but I can email now that we know who they are. I can put out an email to that group and so you check on availability.
Do me a favor, also email when you do that, let the executive committee know too, in case any of them want to. Okay, so all you policy people, get ready for more information from Bob. Next thing is the financial update, and I asked Bob about this, and we talked about it after budgeting. when it was pretty obvious, there's some people, budgeting's something new to them because the SU budget is just so screwy. Because there are so many different people get money from different accounts. So I asked Bob if we could maybe do a financial review. We're close to the end of the year, see where we stand, and just get people starting to think about the budgets. And then if you have questions or other things you would like to see, we can add it. And I thought, once a quarter when we meet. And then I was also gonna see if at the executive committee meetings monthly that we could just get a quick kind of hear where we're at. Probably not so much in the summer, but once we start spending money heavy. There is, as chair, I usually get sent all the pay warrants to approve, and it's, sometimes it's 300 or 400 pages. It takes a good 20 minutes for it to download on my computer, and after I clicked it, let's do this. And I've had a lot of questions because I found a couple times when people put in for mileage that they shouldn't have. It's been a misunderstanding, and it's very rare. I think I've caught like maybe 4 things in the last 2 years, a couple things a year. But it is kind of eye-opening, and those of us that have been doing the budget and been really involved with it, it kind of almost makes sense, which is sometimes scary. So almost.
I like that, kind of almost.
Yeah, kind of almost. So I thought that I would Heidi put together a nice little summary for us, which I forget what it looks like. It looks like this right here.
If you're live in person, it's a new version than what's in the package.
Just some slight changes. The numbers don't really change, but I just added a few more pieces of information.
So we're looking at, the general fund, but maybe a $40,000 surplus. We're looking at in revenue being down a little bit, but we did agree to use some fund balance last year for this year. And it looks like we're not gonna have to use all 95,000, so there'll be another little bit of fund balance left. And if you go to page 2, overall, it looks like for the special ed MTSS budget, we're gonna spend a little bit more than we budgeted in expenditures, and revenue is down quite a bit. And we're gonna use some fund balance of $700,000.
The revenue is a little bit above.
Oh, a little above, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the 139 is over what we had budgeted for. So the approved fund balance use of 800,000 won't be fully utilized based on my projected anticipated revenue that's coming in to offset the amount the expenditure budget was over.
So we'll have about $87,000.
Yes.
So it's a little bit, so we must have been a little bit better because we're looking at using 800 to balance it. We're using a little less, so.
Yes, that is correct.
And I want to say, and I say it all the time again, all it takes is a family or a student to move in or out of the district. In 1 year in Dover, we had a student move out of the district the day before school started, and it was $100,000 savings that we didn't have to spend. And they actually moved to Stanford, because 2 members of the Stanford board came to our board, and they were so upset because they didn't budget that $100,000. It was a big percentage of their budget, and they thought we should give them the money because we already budgeted for it. So it's, I always commend that a budget numbers is not what we're gonna spend. And you look in the old days, like in the old town reports, the highway budget was $112. And, so it was maybe a little easier to anticipate stuff, but just all the things that we have to do, the homeless funds, transportation for people that are homeless, buying stuff, the MTSS items. I mean, there's money coming out everywhere and going out in all different places. So I think for you folks to be able to say that, you didn't spend all the money, I've always been impressed with that. I know 1 year in Dover, they didn't have a surplus, so they gave out bonuses and had a big ice cream party and made sure there was no surplus left. And there is some.
That was a reward. We're getting ice cream.
There are some. In the government, a lot of times, you don't want to leave anything left over, because if you do, then maybe you didn't need as much, and we should give you less. And I've always felt that we should compliment people that don't spend everything if they don't have to, that, there's a budget there, but it doesn't mean you have to spend it all. So, is there any questions or any comments or anything that different that people would like to see? Go ahead, Al.
I just wanted to say, so between the two, just want to make sure I'm understanding how much we're saving versus what we anticipated. So on the general fund, we are saving $39,660, correct?
Yes,
And then for the MTSS is roughly $87,000.
yes.
Okay, so net between the two is 100. Great.
Thank you.
But remember too, we did use a lot of fund balance.
Oh, totally, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Right, we budgeted fund balance, but this is
Right.
how much.
But, I mean, I wish we could see 800,000 because that's what we look for, but again, it's, it's not like we can say, no, we're not gonna spend this money. On a lot of these items, we have to do it.
Well, I think you purposely used fund balance so that you didn't have to raise taxes in order to
No,
cover this.
we did, but I'm
Yeah.
also saying, it's like we can't, cut the MTSS in half
Right.
and just make do with it, because there's no way that would ever
Yes.
fly.
Yeah.
Al, you all set, sir?
Yes.
Anybody else here live? Anybody on TV? Everybody good? I thought I saw thumbs go up. So if you think of anything that you'd like to see in budget discussion, budget review for the board, let me know, and let's talk about it at the executive committee so the executive group can know what's going on, and then, hopefully it'll start giving people more information when we get to budget time. And then the VTLC FY26 commitment. So if y'all remember, and if you actually read the minutes, we did approve to send them some money for this current year, and Bob found it in some, some savings and some excess revenue. So that didn't hurt us, obviously, we still have some money, but we were also asked to budget for next year a chunk of money. So we do have Stephanie here to talk about that. Let's have her presentation, and then we can open it up, and then the recommendation of the superintendent, and then we'll have discussion. So how do you want to do about it?
So she has a couple of slides that she wants to show, and you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Let's see.
Let me know if it doesn't work. But
I'm just hoping it says screen two. Okay, perfect. All right. Now I've got to see what you guys are seeing. Okay. This is doing a very weird thing. I can't see what you guys are seeing. Okay.
Yep.
Let me know. I can only see some of you. So, are you seeing where it says like audio, video participants and all that up there too, or no? Do you see that?
No, we see your first slide.
Just the slide. Okay, perfect. All right. So just know that I have like this heading that's blocking some of what I'm going to say. So if I mess up, that's why. It's not because I'm a terrible public speaker. Okay.
We know you love public speaking. So.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite thing to do. So I do appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more of the Windham Central specific information on how we have benefited from the membership with the Vermont Learning Collaborative. So that's kind of what these next 8 or 9 slides are about. Let me see if it's going to let me go forward. There we go. So if you recall, the original seed money that Windham Central contributed was $38,300, and that was like right during like COVID time. I believe we used ESSER funds, if I remember correctly. And this was founded, Vermont Learning Collaborative was founded on the visionary ideas of Zach McLaughlin and Bill Antone, our very own time. And they were working with the Vermont Learning Collaborative as an existing nonprofit and all the board members wanted to retire, and they had approached superintendents to see if they wanted to take over the funds that were left there. There were some liquid assets. And so we decided to take that over. It took a couple of years pre-2021. And we were at the point of requesting the seed money from everybody to see who is interested, where are we at, and then to begin the initial search for an executive director. And that was a national search that we used New Solutions K-12, which, if you recall, they were part of the district management group. A lot of the staff there were part of the district management group who did the huge study right before Act 173 came down the pike for us. So it was very much the dream of Windham Central and Springfield School District, and then the other supervisory unions and school districts joined in. This is where I'm not going to be able to see all my words here. So what I wanted to do is be able to identify for you guys what savings we have already had as a member of the Vermont Learning Collaborative. So from 2023 to 2024, these are examples of services that we contracted with the Vermont Learning Collaborative for. So they include things like professional development, speech and language, and other assessments, a staffing cost, which we were having a difficult time finding a speech and language pathologist, and we also only needed a 0.8 FTE at the time. So they were able to find one for us that way. They had referral fees that come along with that, and then the mileage that is associated with some of the aspects of it. So the grand total that we saved as being a member versus being a non-member was $18,629 for that year. And so that 2024, 2025, if you recall the last meeting that I was at with you guys, you voted on the contribution of $10,165 to cover the challenges that we had this year, covering costs. Is everything still okay? Sorry.
Yeah, we're just fixing the
cool.
lights, Stephanie, so people
Okay,
can see
cool.
better. That
Do you
was
want me to wait? I'm sorry.
No, you can keep going.
Okay. Then 2024 to 25, these are some of the services we have contracted with the Vermont Learning Collaborative for. Again, some professional development, speech and language services and assessments, staffing costs. We bumped up to a 1.0 FTE with the SLP mid-year, but started out as a 0.8 initially. We have had autism evaluations done, cognitive and adaptive behavior assessments, program consultation, those kinds of things. And so the total savings we have had by being a member versus non-member is $26,262.47 for that chunk of time. And so this is the moving forward part. So for the upcoming year, what the collaborative is looking for is to have one more membership fee. We're hoping that it's a one-time situation because we hope to be financially solvent by that point and very independent with programs up and running and a board of cooperative ed services in place. And so what we are asking based on ADM is the $17,120 from Windham Central. Other key services that we have benefited from, just kind of like an overview and just a little bit of other areas that are examples, are we sometimes have a very, very, very part-time need. So we, have a student who is in pre-K, is attending a pre-K program outside of our supervisory union, happens to need speech and language services. And so to send one of our SLPs to do that, which they're already full caseloads, to drive all the way out to these kinds of placements would be far more costly. So we approached the collaborative to see if they had anyone available, and they did. And so we have even just a 30-minute session a week with that person. So it's that kind of custom tailored service level that we have benefited from. We also, two of the supervisory unions, Windham Southwest and Windham Southeast, needed a board certified behavior analyst, and they wanted a really great one, and they knew that it was costly, and sometimes the BCBAs are outside of the teacher union kind of contracts. And so, they were struggling with trying to find somebody. And so they both were able to pool together and contract through the Vermont Learning Collaborative for a part-time BCBA. So it's full-time total, but part-time for each. They've also provided tutoring, consultation. The evaluations have been much, much quicker than some of the other places we have had outside evaluations done. So they've allowed us to maintain compliance. We have had 100% compliance on evaluations. Everything is very local, so we're not dealing with, people from, super far out. It's all localized. So, mileage or time for travel, any of those kinds of things are very low cost comparatively. We've also been able to have custom offerings. So for instance, I needed an evaluation like analysis done of our in-district programs and, had a custom kind of request, and they were able to get that done this year in a timely fashion. And it was, it's very helpful information. We've also needed mid-year crisis prevention institute. So that's our restraint kind of training that is required for anyone who ends up needing to do hands-on support of students. And so that was between general ed and special ed. We had mid-year hires who needed it, and the collaborative was able to pull that together for like a regional training with all the 8 supervised unions and school districts. So it saved a lot of money that way. And then there's also immediate collaboration and support. So if there's anything that somebody needs, like it could be like you need a part-time this or a full-time that, they're very helpful and very responsive to helping. And so I can't see what this like heading says, VTLC something or other. Let me just quickly look. Oh, like it's a comparison. Give me one quick second, sorry about that. The savings. So just in comparison to, I don't want to say real world, but like other places we have had evaluations or consultation services. So we have saved regionally anywhere between $705 to $4,700 per evaluation, $1,500 to $5,675 for PD, $3,100 to $6,857 for consultation. And the collaborative is launching their first partner program in Brattleboro for the upcoming school year. And already right off the bat, with a limited number of kids going in, it's a $54 per day savings comparatively. And we anticipate as more kids come in, that will be, significantly more savings. And students are also receiving incredible services and support. So we're trying to create programming and supports that there's never going to be a wait list. It will always be like, yo, you have a student who moved in and you don't know, how to either serve them, or you don't have the population to serve them. They can go here, here's what it costs, and bam. And the proximity to where we are located is much closer. So we wouldn't have to, spend as much on transportation, sending kids over the opposite mountain or state or whatever. So those are just kind of like, I knew you guys are real world people, so I figured you'd really want to be asking those kinds of, or get that kind of information for what we're saving comparatively. So far, 7 of the 8 supervisor unions and school districts have continued their membership. They've all signed, the boards have signed to continue. So we are the one lingering one, and I recognize I have to wear 2 hats in this meeting, but I feel badly that it's me asking, but I am the president of that board. So Windham Central is the one supervised union who has not yet signed on. So we're really hoping that Windham Central will continue the commitment. And again, very hopeful it's a one-time thing, and this would cover the entire next year. And we are also very, very close to becoming a BOCES, and we're guiding, supporting, I'll say, the Agency of Education in creating a BOCES and allowing that to go through. So we're almost at the point of finalizing the articles of amendment on that. So I think that was it. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Unless, does anyone have any questions about slides in particular? Do you want me to keep it up?
As we hand up, Richard.
Okay, Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I have comments, not questions, so I don't need you to keep the slide up for me. I don't know about anybody else. That's not why I raised my hand.
I'll just unshare and then I can see you guys better.
Yeah. Rich, do you still want me to?
Well, I was wondering, do we want to just get a recommendation from the superintendent and then open it up to comments?
Absolutely. I raised my hand probably a little early.
Okay. Bob, if you or Heidi have a recommendation, where the money's gonna come from and what you think we should do, and then we'll open it up to questions to the three.
So Jen and Stephanie and Heidi had some conversations around like how I think you guys would charge us to figure out how we would pay for this $17,000 for next year. I think, because special ed and MTSS budget in general is fluid, as you mentioned earlier, like it's really hard to predict. Like we could say, well, right now, we may have an unfilled para position that would more than cover that. And then, like you said, some family moves in and that's blown out of the water. So it's really hard to find that dollar amount to highlight in the budget and be like, we're not gonna do this thing, we're gonna do this thing instead. But what I will say is based on what she just showed you guys for the last 2 fiscal years, how much more the services we did require would have cost us. It's definitely, the savings is more than 17,000 per year. And if we're not a member, we are paying the full price for some of those services that we may still need. So, it's just a matter of like, it's putting the money up front to ensure that we're gonna get better pricing on those services when we need it. And so my recommendation is that we do it. Heidi has a recommendation part A.
My recommendation, after going through the numbers and talking to everybody, was that it comes out of this year's budget. Because while some of the staffing was over budget, Stephanie did a great job at reducing other places, and tuition was much lower because we were able to use some grant funds to pay for some tuitions. And so based on the fact that the board had approved using 800,000 of fund balance, but we're only using approximately 713, I'd like to suggest that if the board moves forward, we pay for it this year.
Okay, so you step up?
That's it, yep.
Okay, so Emily, you were up first, and then we'll go, anybody else has questions?
Yeah, I just want to first of all thank Stephanie and for taking a leadership role in this. And my comments are really more around the other hat I wear, which is BOCES. We're in the process of making an adjustment in the legislature to make sure that the funding for a BOCES comes at the beginning as opposed to the end of the creation of a BOCES, and I'm pretty sure that's gotten a lot of support. So it was sort of a failure in the original legislation where we didn't realize the startup costs that were going to happen with BOCES. The other thing I wanted to just say is that BOCES is on the table a lot, and I'm not going to get into what a BOCES is, and this isn't the right time or place, but I just want to mention that with the conversations we're having in Montpelier around a new education system, I hesitate to call it transformational changes, all that sort of stuff, because I think it leads to a difficult perspective, and everybody's feeling differently about it. But we are moving forward with changes to how we fund and govern our education system, and BOCES is remaining a very important part of future conversations, I think, and we need to continue to stay on top of what a BOCES does and how it functions in an SU and how it saves money. And so that takes me back to the work we've been doing at the Vermont Learning Collaborative, and again, thanking Stephanie for her leadership role there, and saying that I think that as much as every penny that we're trying to spend and fund right now is critically important, we've seen the savings, and I think that this is our future in some ways. A BOCES is a board of cooperative education services, and that is how we are going to get through the challenges we're facing by working together. And I feel really strongly about that and think we need to continue to lead in this area. And Stephanie, you can share whether I don't think there are any other BOCES, or maybe one other BOCES that going on?
Yeah, so there is one collaborative that is currently in existence, but it's not a BOCES, and there are several other supervisory unions and school districts who are interested in pursuing it. But you hit the the nail on the head of when with the funding not coming until after.
Right.
You can see all the work that the Vermont Learning Collaborative has been able to do because of seed money and the initial liquid assets that we took over from the nonprofit. And now the membership fee, we couldn't have done it without that. We wouldn't have an executive director who's able to do it or any of those kinds of things. So I'm really glad the state is talking about the funding coming first. We do anticipate we'll get the $10,000. It's $10,000 per BOCES. They anticipate having 7 total or maximum. So we anticipate being able to capture that, and then we anticipate supporting other places that are interested in creating a BOCES and have us be like the front lead, like they can contract with the collaborative for that kind of service. So that's kind of the goal.
So just to wrap up my comments, thank you, Stephanie. That was really helpful.
Thanks.
To wrap up my comments, I feel like we in Windham Central, in this way and many other ways, we are on the cutting edge, leading edge of some really future thinking. And I really appreciate that. And part of the reason is because we make sure that we're hiring good employees in this SU focused on student needs and taxpayer dollars. So I think that if we can support this, we should absolutely be supporting this right now, because I think that we're going to be ahead of everybody else when we do this. So thank you again. My thoughts.
Thank you, Emily. Anybody else in TV land? See head shaking, no. Anybody in here? You guys all set? Go ahead.
I just want to say it seems like a sound investment, and I know we can't predict what's going to be spent, right? But if just looking at the last 2 years, it's between 100, 150,000, and if you can net savings of 18 to 25,000, and you're spending 10,000. 17. It almost seems like a wash at the end of the day.
In the worst case scenario.
Yeah, right. So I really don't see a downside financially, and then also you're talking about this would be quicker to fill positions. I would imagine you have more horsepower to do stuff like that. So yeah, I don't really see a downside.
Anybody else here? Go ahead.
Can I make a motion?
Sure, because we can have discussion after.
We have a discussion after. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the expenditure of this request and that it come out of the current year's budget, current year's funds.
Okay, so you're gonna make a motion to approve $17,120 to come out of this year's budget.
Correct.
Okay, do I have a second to Dan's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Dwight. So Dwight seconded. So you guys, if there's anything either one of you'd like to say, usually we give the person making the motion first dibs.
It's all been said.
I'm good.
Okay, and Drew, you all set? You guys back there all set? TV land folks all set?
Rich, can I just add one more very tiny thing?
Yeah.
If people are interested, from New York is on and Stephanie again knows about this, but New York is on the leading edge of BOCES. And so if anybody has any need for information, just Google New York BOCES, you'll get a lot more information about that. I really do think that we're potentially heading in that direction in this state to make sure that we're supporting very small schools in our rural areas, which is what I'm very concerned about.
Okay, if you guys are all set, I just want to make one quick comment. Usually in the stat report, they won't let you expenditures that even if you spent it this year, if it's for next year, they take it out of next year's
The
budget.
stat book isn't gonna question us about it. We're not paying with federal funds.
Okay,
So that is,
so we should be
you should
okay.
be fine.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Everybody good? You ready to vote? All those in favor of $17,120 out of this year's budget to fund VTLC for next budget year, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, please say nay. It appears as though the ayes have it. It is a unanimous decision in the affirmatives. Thank you, Stephanie. I think that
Thank you,
meant
guys.
you can't leave. I think that was what Bob said.
Just a stay for the
okay,
rest of the
I can
meeting.
No, for the rest of the
I
year.
will. I will for you guys. And I'm staying the rest of the school year, I promise.
Wow.
Does she have to stay for the year we paid
No,
for?
Yeah.
I really
Staffing
appreciate you
costs
guys.
here.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just as a time check, folks, we were supposed to be moving on about 7:45. It's now 8:15. So if we can move some of these along, I may skip something if people don't have a lot to do, but class action suit against PowerSchool data breach. Bob, we need
Yeah.
to.
So this is a quick one, I think. Well, I mean, in short, some of you who are either parents now or parents in the past may have gotten communication from us at one point that PowerSchool, even though we don't have it anymore, had a nationwide data breach. And so you might wonder, why does that affect us? Well, they still hold our archive data. And so they've been, I think, unclear as to what data was released, and so on and so forth. And their response, after having just gone through a data breach ourselves and having to deal with all the attorney's stuff and how that was connected, to watch PowerSchool fumble around with this has been disheartening, and they try to push stuff off on us. And anyways, long story short, there's a class action suit against PowerSchool. And so they are looking for plaintiffs to join. I don't know, like any lawsuit, you don't know what's going to come out of it. There's no upfront cost. I did shoot an email to our legal team to ask them what they thought, and their response was, as long as there's no cost up front, why not? So that was from Pietro. But before we can enter any board sort of approval to enter into that, so if you guys are interested in seeing if we can generate some revenue from that, that is one way to do it. And so I don't know what the outcome would be. I don't know what we'll deal with later. I think, Matt, certainly in the IT department, would have to probably do some legwork to provide some.
I know a little bit of those details.
Who does?
I do.
Oh, you do?
I do, because I watched
Well,
the webinar.
let's see. So before we get into
that's the short version. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no.
So, class action suit, it's usually no money up front. You get class. I was in one for Honda power equipment from my mowers and stuff. And and by the time you're all said and done, I think I got like $20. But again, it was $20 more than I had. So, do you folks need more information, or I think my only concern is it's excessive amount of time that the staff has to spend. We're also part of this PFAS class action suit out of a law firm out of Puerto Rico, and it's like every other day I probably got a couple hundred hours a year into it for the last few years. It's supposed to settle in the next 3 months. I'm going to be very interested to see how many dollars we get, because I don't think it's going to be hundreds and thousands. But again, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So anybody have any thoughts, comments, feel strongly one way or another, or would you like to just throw it in? Go ahead, boss.
So I was going to make a motion, see what people think of this, that the board authorizes the superintendent to join a class action suit against PowerSchool if he deems it appropriate.
Can I make a comment about
No,
that?
you
wording?
can't.
Okay.
So, because it's a
You're
motion.
using the wrong wording though, that's all.
Okay, it's a motion though,
Okay.
so you can amend it in discussion unless
sure.
you'd like to withdraw your motion.
No, so I had prefaced my comment by saying, what do people think of this? So I guess I had not made a motion.
Okay,
yet.
so that wasn't a motion.
Basically leaving it up to Bob to pull the plug if a downside comes along, but authorizing him to.
So what do you want to make, Heidi?
So the lawsuit that we're looking at is actually called a mass litigation lawsuit, and it's a distinction that's important because New Jersey has filed a class action lawsuit, but it's not going to indemnify us from future actions. And so we definitely want to join the mass litigation lawsuit. I wrote it here, mass litigation lawsuit.
There you go, Dan. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, but Bob, would you be willing to be the one to be able to make the decision if in fact you were authorized by this board?
Sure.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that this board authorize the superintendent to join a
Mass
action.
Mass litigation.
Mass litigation.
mass.
Down here.
Oh,
Mass
mass
litigation.
litigation lawsuit against PowerSchool if they so choose.
If he so chooses.
Well, it just says the superintendent.
Is everybody good on the motion that Dan just made? Is it as clear as mud for everybody? Would anybody like to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion
Dan,
that allows that to enter into the mass litigation action if the superintendent so deems it appropriate.
Correct, yeah, that's good.
Okay, and we have a second by Dwight. Do we have any further discussion? Are you ready to vote? All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Get him.
Get him.
Is there any opposed? Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. Congratulations, Bob, it is, and you get to move us forward. Future SU budgeting timeline discussion process. So what I'd like to do on here is, again, it was just a thought in, again, much like our staffing updates and a staffing chart or whatever we're gonna call it. I thought that, we usually try to do budgeting just before the holidays and, between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and vacation. And, I remember a teacher one time saying, after Thanksgiving with Christmas, no learning happens. So really, why do we even have school sometimes? But we also have schools that need to be, to have the budget ahead of time so that they can, they can present a budget to their town. West River is the largest, they pay the most out of it. We used to do it real early. We were always trying to get it by Thanksgiving or right around Thanksgiving, mostly for West River. Because for most of the other schools, it was not that big a difference if we saved a little money. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this tonight, but what I'd like to do, if everybody's good with this, is if you have any thoughts about it, make sure you let either your board chair know or one of the officers, your boss. And I'd like, if it's okay with everybody, for the executive committee to kind of work on something to bring back to the board. And maybe even if we have to have a quick special meeting, just to kind of set it up so that Heidi knows when she's got to have her stuff done and when, Bob needs to get his stuff and everybody put stuff together. Does anybody have a problem with that, kind of kicking that to the executive committee for a little bit? Seeing some head shaking. We will, so Bob, let's make sure at the next executive committee, that's one of the first things we discuss. Dan, Rural School Community Alliance.
So everybody here knows that if you read the minutes from the previous meeting, that this SU board voted to become members of the Rural School Community Alliance. I'm here tonight to ask that we, the Supervisory Union, make a contribution of $1,000 toward the Rural School Community Alliance. I'm a member of the steering committee of the Alliance, and they have just been, Emily will be able to corroborate this, whether for better or for worse. The people working for this organization have just been super busy in Montpelier, and their goal has been to make sure that the voices of small schools all around the state get heard. And I think every school in this supervisory union is going to be affected by the legislation that comes out. So it's been gratifying to me to see that the voice is there in Montpelier, is being heard. And there are expenses associated with that. And so my request is that this supervisory union spend $1,000 to help defray the costs of doing it.
Okay, is there any thoughts? Anybody like to make a motion? Anybody not want to make a motion? Okay, crickets.
I'm happy to make the motion. I will make a motion that the WCSU board contribute $1,000 to the Rural School Community Alliance.
Okay.
I can second that, Dan.
You're gonna second it, Allison?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion by Dan for $1,000 for the Rural School Community Alliance and a second by Allison. You folks, because you motioned and seconded, do you have any comments or anything you want to throw out there? I know Dan, you kind of.
I said my piece, yeah, Allison.
Okay, Allison, you all set? Are there any comments from anybody in the board? Hearing none, are you ready to vote? I didn't mean to scare you by telling you we're running late, but. All those in favor of $1,000 contribution to the Rural School Community Alliance signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any
Rich,
abstentions?
I'm gonna abstain.
You're gonna abstain, okay, so we have one abstention. So again, because it's not a unanimous decision, we're supposed to do a roll call, but in the honor of saving a little bit of time, besides Emily's abstention, is there anybody who does not agree with it? Does not vote in favor? Okay, so
Just for clarity, can I just say, I'm abstaining because it would be lobbying me in my other role. So I don't want to have a role here.
You don't want to be paying to be lobbied?
I think it would be inappropriate for me to vote on this motion.
No, thank you, Emily. So it's all in favor but one abstention. Does everybody agree with that? Okay. So then the next thing is a possible full-day retreat. So back when I first became chairman of Windham Central in the dark ages, because it was so dark that Drew's training facility used to be a bar and a dance place, and we did a full-day retreat there. And they had really good food at the time. I don't know if Drew has good food now, but maybe even Drew would like to host it. We are required as board members, and especially as chairs, to do training with the superintendent. And some of that training is covered by the VSBA. Sometimes I don't enjoy the VSBA training, and I don't enjoy having to drive, all the way up to.
You say sometimes you did?
From northern Massachusetts up into, central Vermont or southern Vermont.
Oh, so this year, Burlington.
Yeah, it's gonna be, well, it should be Burlington. It's where the majority of the people live. But
Yeah, but they're doing it on Halloween, aren't they?
Oh wow, you can dress up this year.
I think
No,
they're
you
done.
have children, you can't go.
I think they're done at noon they're changing it up, so they're doing still 2 days. The day before Halloween is a full day, and Halloween is a half day, and then you go home, so you can be home for your kids.
But anyways, what I was wondering is we actually did a full day retreat, and it was really good. I know Emily was there, and I don't remember, because you got off the board when I was first chairman, and then you came back on. But it was a really good day, and it gave us the ability to do more. And when we say a full day, it really wasn't like, show up at 7 and stay till 5:30 or anything. I think it was more like a school day, 8:30 to, like 3 or something. And then we still do our evening retreat where we have the staff involved too. The original one was like the first day of school. I don't even remember who the superintendent was. It must have been after Holden, it was.
Ron Staley?
No, it was Ron.
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Yeah, I believe it was Cheryl Ruth. And it was a really good time. We had like coffee in the morning, we had a lunch, and we did a bunch of training. We did some role playing where, we were a school board member, and one of the parents came in because they were upset because the coach was awful in basketball. He wouldn't play his kid enough hours, and his kid was the best player. And, school board members, we're going to go take care of that. And so again, I don't know if we need to make a decision right now, except if we want to do it maybe over the summer or sometime in the summer or sometime in the fall. We can also, instead of having an evening meeting, we could do a daytime meeting and get more hours. But try to get closer to what we need for our training. It is kind of late. Does anybody have any thoughts off the top of your head? And if not, let's have the executive committee maybe flush this one out too, and then send something out to all the board members, see if there's enough interest. Is that good with people? Anybody with, what's that?
Just tell them how you're going to be joining us at executive committee. There's a lot to do.
Yeah. Any thoughts from anybody? Any ideas? Again, it wasn't. I just asked Bob to put this on to kind of get some discussion or get people's heads thinking about it. Go ahead.
I think it's a great idea. I know a million years ago when I was chair of Leland and Gray or West River Red Board, we had a full day retreat. And there's so much more learning and sort of collaboration that can go on in a full day than there can stuffing something into quick cocktails and an evening meeting. If people can find the time, if we can put it together, it really is a good experience.
And we have a bunch of things that we can discuss that too. We can discuss the staffing updates, and we can discuss the future budgeting, and so it may give us more time, so we're not having your board chair say I'm running over, I'm on borrowed time, guys, so. Anybody in TV land, any thoughts?
I like it. I think it's a good idea.
Rich, remind me, this is also mandatory for all school board members.
Well, it's mandatory to get training with the superintendent, but you can go to the VSBA and do it if you want to go to Burlington this year.
That's just chair though is mandatory. The
Yeah.
school boards aren't mandatory.
It's quality time to me, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely.
The meal was good last year.
I think it's just to echo what others have said, I think it's a great idea. And I've always felt that the retreats, the day, 9 to 3 or whatever times are the most productive, as Joe said.
Okay, so the executive committee will work on something, we'll get something out to everybody. Is there anybody that's dead set against it? Is everybody okay with the idea, and we'll just flush it out? You all set? Guys good? Okay.
Your place.
That's fine. We have space.
Do you serve food?
We do.
Well, there you go, Bob. It'll be close to your office.
Rates are reasonable.
Very. So, adopt policies. The problem is for you, Drew, if you're attending it, people are gonna just interrupt you the whole time.
No, just make it a position, not a name.
So we have 3 policies that we warned at our last meeting, so we can adopt them. Bob, they've been posted, everybody's good. Are there any questions? They are in your packet, and if somebody so desires, we can actually adopt all 3 in one fell swoop. If somebody want to make that motion, or as Allison is a policy guru, do you have any concerns, or?
You're muted, Allison.
I guess she's got a concern.
All right, no, I like to adopt policies individually.
Okay, well, would you like to make a motion?
Oh, it's hard for me, I don't have the thing printed out, so I would have to split this.
F23-Capitalization of Assets.
So moved, please approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Kate, we'll give it to Kate. We'll let TV Land handle this one. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is. C8, pupil privacy rights.
So moved.
Who was that?
It was Emily. I'm just trying to get on top of it quick.
Okay, second by anybody?
Rachel.
Rachel, thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of C8, pupil privacy rights, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is. And then B3, drugs and alcohol-free workplace, including board meetings. Don't look at me like that, Drew.
Nobody's gonna make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
It's on B3, drug and alcohol-free workplace, not board meetings.
Okay, well, it's actually legally board meetings, but.
I'll second.
Okay, so Joe made it, Dan seconded it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is. Okay, we have an addition to the agenda, which is contracts. So Bob has given me a whole bunch of contracts to sign. Gina Roque for speech language pathologist at $117,718 as a full-time person. I have Heidi Russ as our director of finance for $110 as a full-time employee. I have Renee Merluzzi as a director of curriculum and instruction at $105,000 as a full-time a year-round employee. I have Jen McCusick as Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. This one's for $142,000 as a full-time employee. We have Director of Technology Matt Martin, full-time for $112,476. We have Gregory Frost as Director of Operations for $107,223, full-time. We have Director of SEL Equity and Wellness, David Cohn, a full-time year-round for 220.
220 day.
Yeah, okay, so full-time at 115,000. We have Melissa Bartlett as an occupational therapist at $108,006 for a full-time year-round position. We have, she was 3 pages. Sarah Kiefer as a school psychologist at $91,973. This is a teacher. This is a 185 day contract. I think we got a couple more. Holly Nardone as another speech language pathologist at $104,014 for a 185 day contract. I think we're in the 185 day ones. Danielle Post as another speech language pathologist at $82,400 for 185 day. And we have Jeff Stent as a physical therapist at $82,317, and it's for a 0.61 FTE, so about 113 days. So if somebody would so move to approve those contracts for the board chair to sign them?
And do you want to also authorize the board chair to sign?
Let's do these first before signing these. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve all those contracts? We can do them individually if you want, or you can do them as a packet.
So moved.
So moved, Kate. Do I have a second?
Sure. Second.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to Joe because he said second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is. So we do have a position that Bob's interviewing for Director of Special. Yeah, they're signed. Director of Special Ed. I signed them really quick. You weren't paying attention. So would somebody be willing to make a motion to approve the board chair to sign a contract for that position when Bob has a candidate?
So moved, Kate.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Rachel. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. So we're at 8:40. Do we want to just we've got 4 boards here, right? So do we want to take a couple minutes and run around quick for updates, and then we can call it a night? You want to do Marlboro?
So Marlboro's having a graduation, the 8th grade are graduating coming up. I've forgotten the exact day, and that's always a big time. It's been one of the things that they've been there now for 9 or 10 years, and they move on and the community comes out. My grandson is one of the people graduating, so I'll be handing out the diplomas.
Congratulations. Anything else?
No, absolutely nothing else.
Drew, you want to do West River?
Oh, there's so much going on at West River. From the high school perspective, lots of sports every single day. They're wrapping up their seasons. Prom coming up this next weekend. The elementary schools have been out doing key wading and field trips, and so I don't even know where to start. Lots of stuff going on. All good stuff.
You covered it pretty well.
Yep.
Kate, you wanna do River Valley?
I would love to. So we also have a graduation for rising sixth graders. Dover's going to be on June 9th. Wardsboro will be on June 11th. The kids have been busy with baseball, pee-wee, t-ball, girls on the run, also Camp Kuwaitan too from both Dover and Wardsboro. So they've had a very busy spring and the board's been busy as well. So
Thank you. Allison, last but not least.
We've got crazy busy school schedules, and I think everybody needs new roofs on all of our buildings, and we too need buses. Aside from that, there is it's really quiet. So yeah.
Keep your fingers crossed. So I'm sorry, we're at I have like 8:41. Which isn't too bad. We got a lot done tonight, a lot of chance for people to say their piece. But right now, there's a motion and a second we need, and we can move forward.
I'll motion to adjourn at 8:42.
Second.
Okay, Allison seconded Kate's motion. Is there all those, no discussion involved, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you.